the slower you drive, the less energy you burn. Surely that's the case, isn't it? Only one way to find out. Hello again YouTube, and welcome back to Just Get a Tesla. And today I'm actually parked up alongside the A90 north of Aberdeen, and what we're going to do is a bit of a science experiment. I have got this all-wheel drive Model Y Juniper, and I'm going to do 3 runs there and back up the dual carriageway at different speeds. And the idea is pretty simple really. What's the energy use at the different speeds? It is reasonably warm actually, despite the jumper today, despite being early November. It's pretty dry. The roads are maybe slightly damp, but it's not been raining anytime soon. In short, it's actually decent conditions. So I'm going to do 3 runs, a 50 miles an hour run, a 60 miles an hour run, and a 70 miles an hour run, and we're going to see what difference it makes. On each of these, I am going to try and drive in exactly the same way with regards to acceleration and deceleration. I'm going to have autopilot on and let that manage the speed for me, so it's as scientific as I can get it. Let's go. Okay, we're going to reset. I've set this up, so the 50 mile an hour run first. Let's get on with it. And I have debated different ways to try and do this test, because it's never going to be 100% scientific. It just isn't. It's not possible. But we can try and get it as accurate as possible by basically doing the same thing over and over again, which is going to be quite boring for me, to be honest, and it's not going to be the most visually exciting of videos, but we're going to give it a go anyway. So I'm going to accelerate the same way on each of these, which is relatively gently. Now this is the 50 miles an hour trip, so we'll immediately cap it at 50. Because I'm not navigating, I don't have navigate on autopilot giving me, see, I've already gone slightly too fast, that's okay, pull it back. I don't have navigate on autopilot giving me automated lane changes, so I'm going to have to do these manually, which is a pain, but never mind. So that truck that I've just gone past is going to have to come past me almost certainly, because I'm actually doing an annoyingly slow 50 miles an hour. I probably should have sat behind him, but I wanted the same acceleration curve on all of them. Yeah, he's coming past me now. 50 miles an hour feels really slow on here, but it's basically slow truck speed, okay? The maximum speed on this road for a truck is 56, but you will see them going slower than that. A lot do 52 miles an hour or something similar, so I don't feel like I'm causing exactly an obstruction. We do have a roadwork section on the northbound carriageway for a couple of miles, but again, I'm not expecting it to be a particular hold-up, and we're going to try and drive the same in each of the trips through this section, okay, at whatever the speed is that I can get autopilot to give us. So I'm going to stay in lane 1 as long as I can, and then merge and turn, so I'm not holding anybody up. After this guy, basically. So I suspect that each of the runs is likely to have a 50 miles an hour section, just because you're going to be stuck behind trucks and whatever else. But either way, I'm going to maintain it, and we'll see how we go. Gone through 6.5 miles, and we're on 201 watt hours per mile. It's got to be said, 50 miles an hour is one of 2 things, depending on your perspective. It's either mind-numbingly boring, or it's extremely relaxing. You don't need to think about other vehicles at all when you're just trundling along. You don't need to think about them. You are basically wafting along extremely gently, and other people are going to do their own thing. Basically, they're either going to be in front of you and getting out of the way, or they're going to be behind you having to sit and wait. Either way, I'm not particularly bothered about what other people are doing, because I'm going so slowly that practically everything is going past me, even if it's going past me fairly slowly, as this truck is now doing. But he has been sat behind me for the last 3-4 miles without a care in the world, because 50 miles an hour for most of it was absolutely fine. It's only because we've had a little bit of uphill on there that I think he decided he needed to maintain momentum a little bit and then took a hit. I suspect I'm going to then be trailing him for the remaining mile or so to the roundabout, where we're going to turn around and head south again. But anyway, we're down to 193 watt hours per mile, and that is going to drop. It'll be interesting to see just how low it can go. Now look, I'm not advocating for a second that you be doing 50 miles an hour on a dual carriageway, but if you're on a country road and there's a reasonable amount of traffic, 50 as a cruising speed does work. I've done this on the A1, 50, maybe 55 in little bursts, but it absolutely does work. It's a viable cruising speed, and it's obviously fantastically efficient. We've got a little bit of a hill now, but we don't really care, because obviously I've got so much power in reserve, but you get the point. So we're coming down to the roundabout to Ellen, and I'm going to come off autopilot with 200 yards to go on each of them, so that we're doing the same thing and there's nobody right up my bum, so I can use reasonably full regen to be able to bring it down to a sensible speed. We're going to indicate right, and we're basically going to do a 180 and head back south again. And as before, I'm going to accelerate reasonably gently. There's no need to be pounding our way up and down. So as soon as we get to 50, I'll stick it on autopilot, and then we'll stop. 195 as we clear the roundabout and go back onto autopilot. Let's try and remember things like that. 195 as we clear the roundabout and resume. We're on 15 miles, so we're halfway or so down the southbound run. It's on 219 watt hours per mile and dropping. The northern section is a little bit hillier, and this section is much flatter. So it was at 195 as we completed the turnaround at the northern end, and we'll see where we get to when we park up. But I'm expecting that it's certainly going to have a 1 on the beginning, and it's just a question of where we drop to. I'm going to guess somewhere around 180, and we'll find out in a minute whether I'm right or not, but I'm guessing somewhere around that at the point where we turn around. And just in case you're wondering exactly where we are, let's actually stick this on here. So Aberdeen is here, and we're basically going up and down this section of dual carriageway between a place called Black Dog that you can see on there and the bottom end of Ellen. So we're north of Aberdeen. Yes, there is a north of Aberdeen, and we're using this pretty new, last few years, section of dual carriageway to just do some nice efficiency testing. There is one more piece of information which I've just figured out. So let's get up here and to the parking spot, and then I'll briefly add that in so that you understand what it is. So we've pulled off the A90, we're coming up to the roundabout here, and there is one additional piece of information which I've just realised, because we're on 206 watt hours per mile. We have increased the amount of energy burned as we've headed south, and the reason for that can be found up here. If you go onto the weather tab, wind from the south, 9 miles an hour. That's made the difference. There is headwind as we head south, and a tailwind as we head north. So that is making the difference. That is really going to make an impact to the amount of energy that we're consuming. Okay, so we're just going to swing it off here for a second. And yes, that was my brake squeaking. I've got 13,000 miles nearly on the clock, and my brake squeaks. So as you can see, 201.8 watt hours per mile. So we'll call that 202. 2. That is the benchmark for the 50 miles an hour trip, okay? So what we're going to do now is, first of all, we're going to reset it, and then secondly, we're going to change it to our next speed, which is 60 miles an hour. We're going to get straight on with it. So we'll do the same as we did on the way down, although I don't need to pass anything, so I'm going to stay in this lane to stay out of everybody's way. We'll accelerate up to 60, we'll stick autopilot on, and then that should be it. We've got a nice clear road. And there it is. So we've reset the clock. We are aiming to see how close to 202 we get. Another, 18 or so miles to run. Why am I doing this? Oh yes, I'm doing this for science and for your viewing pleasure. Although how much viewing pleasure you get from me going up and down the A90 a few times, I'm not entirely sure. So I really do appreciate the fact that you're sticking with me. We're coming down to the Ellen roundabout again, so I'm going to change lane, and then we'll get to the 200 yards board. And again, there's no one behind me, so I can just lift off and get maximum regen into the battery until the point where I want to just reduce the amount of braking by applying a touch of throttle so that we slow down slightly slower. As counterintuitive as that might sound, that's how you drive with one pedal. And we swing around the island and we head back south again, and then we have a look at where we've got to in terms of efficiency. It's already higher, it's 211, and I haven't finished accelerating yet. So as we go through 50 miles an hour, it's on 222, okay? So we had 195, and then we've got 222. And I'm going to sit behind the van because I'm certain that he's going to be doing 60 miles an hour in a minute. Yeah, can't do. And 234 as we hit 60. So 195 at 50 miles an hour as we came off, that was the lap. And then 222 on the 60 miles an hour northbound leg at half distance, and then we'll do the same thing again on the 70 miles an hour run. But I'm surprised. I am surprised that it is as high as it is. I'm surprised. I'm not entirely sure why it's as high as it is, because I have found that wafting along at this kind of speed is pretty efficient. Although, hey, it's still more than 4.5 miles per kilowatt hour, so it's pretty good. Anyway, we continue along. This is quite boring from my perspective. Now I understand how Bjorn Nyland feels maybe when he's doing his 1,000-kilometer challenges and he's basically just going up and down the E6 motorway, time after time after time. I'm kind of doing the same thing. So hi Bjorn, this is me copying you. I actually have to pull out and go around somebody because he is not doing 60 miles an hour, and I absolutely want to keep to my target. Now, the difficult bit here is that I am kind of trundling past him, but at least he is doing slower than 60. And this, I think, is why 60 is actually a decent speed, because you do find yourself overtaking trucks and heavier, slower vans and things like that, and staying out of their way, but at the same time you're not going so quickly that you're burning loads and loads of energy. So that is a point. 60 miles an hour ish on a run like this might be the sweet spot. Well, we're going to find out, aren't we? 241 now watt hours per mile. We're coming to the end of the southbound run, so 17.8 miles. It's like I say, it's 9 miles basically in each direction. And yes, I'm sat going slightly below 60, but I couldn't realistically get past this guy, so hey, forgive me a little bit. It's fine. And we've still got, southbound southerly wind now at 10 miles an hour, so it has strengthened ever so slightly. So now, having done 2 runs, 50 miles an hour run and a 60 miles an hour run, there is a pattern starting to emerge. On the 50 miles an hour run, the average on the 18 miles was 202 watt hours per mile, which is what, 5 miles per kilowatt hour, which is smashing. On the 60 miles an hour run, the average is 228 watt hours per mile, so that is 4.4 something miles per kilowatt hour. And now I'm going to go and do the 70 miles an hour run, and it's going to be less efficient again. You can kind of see where this is going, but there's something else you might be able to see where this is going, which is I have obviously got an increasing shadow around my gob, and the reason for that is that I am doing Movember. And the reason I'm doing it is, well, how can I put it? I am a depressive. I've been diagnosed with depression in the past. I've taken pills. I've come off the pills. This year has been really tough, and I do mean really tough, with frankly being dragged down at one point to the darkest place that I've really ever been to. And the sad truth is that globally, we lose a man to suicide 1 a minute. Okay? 1 man killing himself every single minute of every single day somewhere in the world. And Movember is a charity that basically encourages you to grow a moustache and as much flummoxery as you can, and believe me, this one's going to be a doozy, and basically raise money for men's health, so prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and mental health. I'm definitely pinning my colours to the mental health side, but the others, of course, are critically important as well. So I just wanted to give a little bit of an aside here that if you want to donate to my Movember pot, the link is on the screen. All donations are hugely welcomed. It's for charity. It's not for me, but it's for men like me and maybe like you who find everything just a little bit too hard. And on that interesting note, let's get back to finding things a little bit too hard and go and do a 70 miles an hour run. I can tell you now, the 70 miles an hour run is not going to be pretty, okay? Because how can I put this? I don't think autopilot is particularly energy efficient, which is interesting. You would think that it would be, that it'd be programmed to be, but I really don't think that it is. And we'll talk a little bit more about that once we get going. And this already feels loads quicker. Now then, we've got a truck and there are roadworks ahead. Am I going to have enough road to be able to get past the truck before we run out of lanes? Because if I don't get past the truck, then very clearly I'm not going to be doing 70. Well, actually, I can see there's traffic ahead. So we're not going to be doing 70 miles an hour through the roadwork section. Ironically, we might get past the truck though. No, we won't. Come on. Ironically, this is going to help. Ironically, this is going to help because I'm now going to have to sit at truck speed drafting a truck as we go through these roadworks, which is actually probably going to help the cause. And on this trip, I think we need as much help as we can get. How can I put this while I scratch the back of my head for a second? Autopilot will set a speed and it will stick to it. Where you have got undulations, which gives you the opportunities to be able to gain momentum and then preserve it. So gain it going downhill and then preserve it going uphill. I think autopilot does a pretty poor job of that because it will literally set a speed and then do nothing else. That's all it does. It says, you want to do 60, I'll do 60. You want to do 70, I'll do 70. Now, obviously at 70, you shouldn't be gaining momentum and speeding up, but if you're cruising along at, say, 60, and you get to a downhill section, then you can build up momentum using Isaac Newton's gravity to assist you, and then you can basically glide. And I've talked about this on other videos about the glide, where here you've got it where there's a little bit of grey, so we're applying power, and then if you come off, it then goes to yellow, green, you know what I mean. Anyway, if you can get it so it's not displaying any colour at all, that's the glide. That's the point where the motors are not applying power and they're not regenerating power. They are quite literally letting you coast. And if you do that, this is a fairly hefty car and it's quite good at building momentum and then applying that fairly quickly. Autopilot doesn't make any use of that. It's quite dumb. I call it dumb autopilot, remember, and it will set you at a speed and it will do nothing else. So I'm fairly confident that I can drive more efficiently than autopilot in quite a few different circumstances. And perhaps that is a future test that we can do. I'll come back here and I'll do an autopilot run without roadworks, and then I'll do a manual run and we can see the difference. It's an 18-mile run. We have got a little bit of uphill and down dale, so it's a reasonable test. So make sure that you've hit the subscribe button so that you know when my videos drop, because I will definitely come back here and film that on another time. We are coming slamming down to the Ellen roundabout. I've already eased off a little bit because, quite frankly, I have to do a then 200 yards full lift, let the car start to slow itself down again, as we've already done, and you already know the routine. And for the third time, happily the last time, on this particular experiment, I am doing a 180 on this roundabout. Yeah. The things that I do for YouTube. Anyway, so it's as we go through 50 that we take the reading, and it's on 244. So, and we're going to carry on and going up to 70 miles an hour, obviously, but it was 195 on the 50, it was 222 on the 60, and it's 244 on the 70. So we can see at half distance how much additional energy has been burned, and then obviously we will get back in a minute and we're going to park up and we're going to have a look at it. But clearly we are burning more energy than I actually thought that we were going to be doing. Although at the moment it's still underneath the 250 watt hours per mile benchmark that I've set for this car, at which point it's 4 miles per kilowatt hour. Yeah, which is good considering the size of the car. I think that's really good. So it's still pretty impressive that we can do this. Pretty impressive. But yeah, it's funny as well. On the 50 miles an hour pass, I said that it was either extremely boring or extremely relaxing. And then we've done it at 60 and now we're doing it at 70. Just on the downhill swooping bend there at Tippety, this feels so much faster. So much faster, despite it being the posted speed limit. But 70 through there felt like we were absolutely flying. Now, part of that might be because of the fact that I have been trundling along previously and suddenly it's like, ooh, we're going quicker. Or it might be that it actually is quicker. Either way, it felt just at that moment that we were really picking our skirts up and getting a shift on. And again, and we're coming up to the southern roundabout where we're going to end this little experiment. And I have been able to maintain 70, but, well, it has done some damage to the energy efficiency. We're on 282 watt hours per mile. Obviously, that's going to decrease a little bit as we go up here and stop, so I'm not counting the numbers yet, but it's quite high. Let's put it that way. It's quite high. Okay, so having now parked up and completed this experiment, let's do the numbers. So on the 50 miles an hour run, we did an average of 202 watt hours per mile. On the 60 miles an hour run, we did an average of 228 watt hours per mile. And on the 70 miles an hour run, we did an average of 267 watt hours per mile. So if we want to look at that as increases, so 60 miles an hour over 50 miles an hour was 13% more power burned, 13. And 70 miles an hour over 60 miles an hour was 17% more power burned. And I suspect it would have been higher had I been able to do 70 miles an hour for the couple of miles or so that we were behind the truck in those roadworks. So putting it bluntly, the faster you go, not only the more power do you burn, but the greater the increase in the variance between the amount of power that you're burning. So the faster you go, the more power you burn, and the more speed that you add, the worse it gets. So very, very, very interesting stuff. I hope that's been useful to you when it comes down to things like trip planning, because that's kind of what I'm thinking about when I'm doing this. What is the efficient speed to be able to cruise at? If you've seen my channel for a while, you might have noticed that I did a extreme range test in this car trying to beat WLTP, which I did, but it took quite a lot of doing, and I was cruising at 50-55 for almost the entirety of that. So I'm going to come back here and do some other trips. I want to do me versus autopilot in terms of efficiency, and I also want to do 50, 55 and 60 next time. I think the sweet spot might actually be truck speed in the UK, which is basically 55 miles an hour. That's my theory, at least anyway. But if you want to see those videos when I've shot them, then again, hit the subscribe button so that you know when they come out. Similarly, you might have noticed something up on the roof. That is Starlink Mini. And if you want to see a video with Starlink Mini, then again, make sure that you've hit subscribe and probably the bell icon as well. Look, I hope these are of interest of you. Keep commenting, tell me your own experiences. What's your sweet spot in terms of the blend of efficiency and actually getting there? I can tell you 50 miles an hour feels blooming slow. Anyway, on that Lancastrian bit of dialect, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you back here very soon on Just Get a Tesla.